What's up, tea drinkers? Who's ready to spill? Welcome to The Tea with KG, hosted by your girl, Kaylee Grace. Here you'll find your weekly boost of real talk mixed with laughter, healing, and all of those vulnerable, messy moments in between. The Tea with KG is a safe space for you to show up exactly as you are. We are here to share real-life stories from around the globe and be a community of love, joy, and celebrating life. This is a real deal show, so there will be coarse language and sensitive topics discussed. The most beautiful stories oftentimes emerge from the darkest of places, and we're here to explore it all. There's room for everyone at this tea time, so grab your drink of choice, spark it up, or just relax and soak it up. Cheers, and let's spill. What's up, tea drinkers? We are back with another episode of The Tea with KG. I'm your host, Kaylee Grace, and I have another amazing guest joining us this week. The lovely Dee Aubie is joining me. Hi.
Hi.
Thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited to have you.
Yeah, I've been listening to all your podcasts, and I have a half an hour drive every day, so.
Perfect. I love that. That's great. So we're going to jump right in with the who are you and what do you do?
So, my name is Deirdre, but I go by Dee, and I'm actually from Miramichi, but my
Yeah.
husband and I moved to Alberta in 2014, and I've got two boys, 7 and 3, and they're born and raised Albertans. And I'm a kindergarten teacher, so this is a little
Aw,
different
that's
for me.
fun. It
No, they're
must be
awesome.
cute to work with kids that age. They're just so funny.
Oh my gosh, they tell it honestly.
Yep, I love
Yeah,
that. Kids are so great to connect with because I've always said that. I'm like, they tell it like it is. They're just so like
no
keeping it
filters.
real. Exactly. I
Yeah.
love it. Well, well, I'm really, really happy that Dee is joining us because she's going to be sharing something very close to her heart, a vulnerable story about her experience with raising a sick child. So, her child has a rare liver disease, but Dee's going to get into all the info for us, and she's just going to talk about her experience and leave us with some words of wisdom along the way. So, we'll dive right in, girl, and you can share with us your amazing story.
Yeah, so I was pregnant with my second son, which we knew the gender, and during pregnancy there was a cyst, and so they just kept an eye on it, lots of doctor visits, and I did get induced just because of the cyst, but it wasn't getting bigger and it wasn't getting smaller. They didn't seem too concerned with it because it wasn't growing. But when Nolan came out, they thought it would be a good idea to remove the cyst. And
Okay.
so, I mean, surgery at 6 weeks, any surgery, but your baby that young is
Yeah.
quite scary, and you don't really know what to expect. And
Mm-hmm.
so we went to the Stollery in Edmonton, um, not knowing really anything. And so when we went, the surgeon said it would probably be about 4 or 5 hours. And so we brought him down, and he had the little Johnny suit, and we just bawled because
Yeah, of
he can't be in there
course.
with them, and he doesn't know what's going
Yeah. And
on.
how old was he at this point? Was it just
Six
brand new?
weeks.
Oh my God. Wow. Wow.
Yes.
Oh my God. I don't have a human child, but I can just imagine I wouldn't want to leave my child like at any
No.
age, but at 6 weeks, that would be so tough.
And of course, your hormones, right? You're still
Yes.
postpartum, and so you've got that other side of it. And then luckily, my mother was able to come out because it
Yeah.
was a hard move to begin with, moving, across,
Of
as you
course.
would know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so anyway, it was going on 5.5, and I looked at my husband, and I just said, I don't have a good feeling. He said 4 or 5 hours. Anyway, 6 hours comes, and he comes, and he says, okay, I need you guys to sit down. And I thought, here we go.
I just got goosebumps everywhere. Oh my God.
So, meanwhile, kind of the backstory, we're sharing a room with someone else. You can't see them because there's a
Mhm.
curtain. But anyway, so he tells us to sit down, and he's just giving us information overload, and I don't even know what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
And then he says all his spiel. He said he took the cyst out, and underneath the cyst was his bile ducts were so thin that the bile wasn't getting through. And so they had to perform what was called a Kasai. Again,
Okay.
no idea what that was.
Yeah.
So I had to look it up again. And that's when they removed the bile ducts, and his small intestine is hooked up to his liver. So instead of
Okay.
the normal pathway, it's the small intestine. And then he ends off with saying eventually he'll need a liver transplant. And as
Wow.
soon as he left, I just lost it. And I
Oh
think
my
the whole
God.
unit
Yeah.
hurt. And I just, you think you're going in, his cyst is going to be removed. That's it.
Hmm.
And I'm telling you, it was definitely the hardest day of my life. And
Oh
it
my
took
God.
me,
Yeah.
I mean, he's 3 years old now, but it took me a very long time to build up the strength and, be strong for him.
Hmm. Of
Uh,
course.
but
Wow.
so because we thought it was just a cyst, we didn't know that we'd have to stay overnight or anything like that. Uh,
Hmm.
didn't have our bags packed. He had a sibling at
Yeah.
home. We didn't anything like that.
Yeah. Weren't prepared like for this
Oh
at
my
all.
gosh,
No.
not at all.
No.
And then the other thing they don't tell you, and which I didn't know because I'm a teacher and not a nurse or a
Yeah.
doctor, is that when they come out of surgery, and that's the other thing that just made me break down. So they're bringing him back, and he's got things everywhere. He's got a thing in his
Yeah.
belly, things in like just,
Your little
and he's
baby.
swollen. He doesn't even look like himself. And
Hmm.
so things like that, they don't tell you. And I wish
No.
somebody would have said, he's going to be a little bit swollen. He's probably going to have all these cords.
Yeah.
And
They
it, oh my
should. They should definitely give you that. Like you said too, like the hormones, just everything, not knowing, then all this information just coming at you like what? And then seeing your baby like not looking the same. Oh my God, no. That's way too much. They definitely need something in place to prepare you as best they can for that.
exactly.
Wow.
And then after that, we found out for whatever reason he couldn't eat for hours. And it's like, oh my gosh, how do you? So we had to try to like put a soother, and oh my gosh, it was just, and
Poor
then no
thing.
sleep, and it was extremely hard. And then knowing
Mhm.
that, this was going to be a journey and a lifelong thing, um,
Yeah.
and all the medications he had to take right away. And it's like, oh my gosh, at the time, how am I going to remember to give him all this medicine? And
Yeah.
had a, excuse me, had to have a feeding tube in his nose. And they
Oh
were
my
trying to
gosh.
train us how to put it in ourselves in case it came out. And I told
Mhm.
him, no, I'm making sure he eats. I am not taking home with the feeding tube. And sure enough, he did eat, and we didn't have to
Yeah.
leave with that. Because, oh my gosh. But yeah, we were in there for I think 2 weeks.
Wow. How old is your older child at this time?
So he would have been 4.
Okay, wow. So young as well. Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, and oh, like I said, just crazy. And
So how did you guys, you said you were there at the hospital for 2 weeks. What did you explain to your son, like your older son? Did you just say like, oh, your brother has some stuff he has to get done? Like, how did you navigate that? Because that's another thing all on its own is you didn't just have one child, you had two. So what did you say to him?
I think so. My mother was staying with him in Sylvan, which is about an
Yeah.
hour and a half away from Edmonton. And I'm not sure if she really explained it well, but as my older son is getting older, because
Mm-hmm.
the other part of this biliary atresia is the Kasai he had is like a band-aid. So
Right.
because the small intestine is not your normal pathway, bacteria is going to seep up, and he's going to get infections, and eventually the liver's not going to work. And
Okay.
so every time he gets a fever of 38.5, and there's no warning, by the way, you're not prepared, it's just
It just
happens.
happens. Wow.
and we're there for 2 weeks. And so it really affects the siblings, which I didn't realize how much.
Yeah.
Where my son, emotional anyway, like sensitive kiddo, um,
Yeah.
nightmares and crying and change in behavior. And, it's all about Nolan,
Mhm.
Nolan, Nolan. And, he internalizes that. And so
Yeah.
trying to make special things for him, but then both parents are with Nolan, and yeah, he's
Mhm.
been having a very hard time with it, and especially
Yeah.
that he's getting older and when we have to go, very
It's
emotional where
tough.
it affects school, and then I have to just kind of tell his teachers that he's probably going to have a hard day, and
Yeah.
so you're in that world, it's hard to understand, and
Totally.
you think you have it bad, but oh my gosh, when you go to that pediatric unit, it is unbelievably sad. The kids
Mm.
there, and you get to know the parents, and they share their stories, and
Do you
oh,
find that helpful? I feel like having that community would be so helpful.
it honestly is very helpful. And there is Facebook groups for biliary
Mm.
atresia, which was good because I had a few questions about Nolan's experience and the medication stuff, and they were able to answer.
Oh,
But
that's great.
yeah, but that being said, as you know, the internet, you do have to be
Oh,
cautious
yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh, yes. Use your discernment for sure.
because, you're looking up everything, and then it's like death, death, and it's like, oh, okay, no.
Yeah. Can't look at
I,
that. Yeah, exactly. Like you can only do so much, and it's so hard when you go down that rabbit hole, especially, a new mother with your baby and not knowing anything about what's going on. Like I would be researching everything too. Like I'd be looking for sure. So,
mhm.
um I think that's so important, like you're saying about having that community. Like, I feel in life with anything and everything, and even this podcast itself is a community of sharing our stories. And like, I'm so grateful that you're sharing yours because I know there's going to be someone hear this who's going to resonate. And it's just how we can help each other. So I love that you brought that up about having that community and hearing their stories. And I just think that's so important.
Yeah, like, you learn because it's been 3 years, you learn so much, and there's things you wish you would have known or that
Yeah.
people would have told you. I mean, even simple things like packing a bag, packing snacks, because,
Hmm.
it's very costly, and a very new appreciation for the Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah.
You see the commercials and you think, oh, yeah, what a great cause. But oh my gosh, when you're in it,
Hmm.
it is like I'll be forever, forever grateful for them.
Oh, I love that. That makes my
And
heart happy.
oh
What
man,
kind of stuff did they do for you guys?
so it's $10 a day,
Hmm.
which that is insane. $10 a day, and that includes meals. They'll have people come in and volunteer to make meals. Um, they have a room, and pre-COVID, they had like a day with massages or to get your nails
Wow.
done or things for the siblings. They had dogs come in
Oh
and
my God.
for
Wow.
kids because, and again, you get to know people that stay there, right? Because,
Yeah.
there was, I just remember vaguely one couple was there and waiting because I forget what kind of surgery it was, but the surgeon would only come once a month
Mm.
to, so they had to stay in case they were called in, and it
Right.
got canceled. So they ended up staying there for 3 months just
Whoa.
waiting, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, like,
That's wow. Like they stayed there for 3 months straight.
yes, because they had to
Whoa.
be prepared, right? Because they lived,
Yeah.
they probably had to take a plane there. And
Wow.
they didn't, the surgeon only came in once a month. And so,
Wow.
like, just to hear other people's stories and how resilient
Yeah.
they are, and
Mm.
oh,
Totally. Wow. That's wild. 3 whole months. What's the longest you guys were there for at one time? Did you ever have big stints like that or did you get more back and forth?
so it's usually 2 weeks.
2 at a
But
time. Okay.
the other thing I would tell people is that, not to be, negative or anything, but the doctors, so it is quite overwhelming. I just thought of something.
No,
So
no, share away. This is great.
at the Stollery, they make their rounds, the doctors, but it's not just one doctor, it's the whole team.
And what do you
So,
mean by stollery? Sorry, I just need to ask.
sorry,
What is it? No, no,
um,
it's okay.
the Children's Hospital Stollery in Edmonton.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I was like, what's a stollery?
yes,
Okay,
sorry.
keep going. No, 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 it's all good.
So when they're making their rounds, it's literally 6 to 10 people that come and
Wow.
hover over your child. So like the first time it's like, oh my gosh, like this is very overwhelming.
Overwhelming.
Everybody's
Yeah.
talking and you're just like, what is going on? They want to know the fever, the heart, like everything, and asking you
Mm.
questions, and you're like, oh my gosh, like it's like 6 to 10 people, right?
That would be a lot and just so much information and just like the rapid fire. I would be like, I would need notes. My brain would be on overdrive for sure. Wow.
Yeah. So I've learned that, especially finding out his rare disease and not knowing anything about it, when you're at doctor visits and whatnot, to record it.
Oh,
Because then you
smart.
can listen back, right? Because it
Yeah.
literally could be terms that, I'm not familiar with and have to look up, or I have a
Mhm.
bad memory.
Me
And
too.
so, oh Lord, I couldn't tell you what happened yesterday. But
Yeah. Why did I come in this room? Like,
right? Why am I here now? No.
yeah.
Um, but I think that was really important. And then even for like your family to listen to, because
That's
even for
smart.
myself to explain even what it was, they drew a picture and they explained it really well. Well, I had that all recorded because I
Mhm.
couldn't do justice with it, right?
That's perfect. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that either, and, like, never even like, for the family, like, that's so perfect. Because even me trying to tell a story about something I'm not super familiar with, I'm like, "Well, they took this thing, and then they did" like, it's not the same issue. I'd be like, "I'm not doing this justice. Just look at this."
Yeah. And so yeah, so what they'll tell you is, well, in my experience, so you don't want to be there, obviously. Nobody wants to be there. It's awful.
Mhm.
And you don't get any sleep, and so they try to say, okay, he'll probably here for 10 days. And then it gets closer, and then every time it's like, no, he has to stay. So it's
Oh,
like, don't get your hopes up, because then on the 10th day you're like, okay, I get to go home, and it's like, no, you got to stay
maybe
long.
not.
And it's
Yeah.
honestly, saying it now doesn't seem hard, but when you're in it, it
Mm.
just tears you down.
Totally, and I feel like that would just be such an emotional experience, probably lack of sleep, maybe not getting enough, proper food, like all those things. I mean, even me just on a normal day, if I don't have my sleep or if I didn't eat, like I get, my emotions get whacked. So having
Yeah.
all that stress and all of that and like caring for someone else, I find is a totally different feeling. Like you take yourself completely out of it and you're just focused on them. So I commend you for that because it's so much, and I totally, and not that I can relate, but I can understand how it would
Yeah.
be. Mhm.
And then, all the blood work and pokes. And unfortunately, Nolan, I think because he's a chubby boy, which they didn't think he would be, he's a hard poke. And so there have been times, where it would literally take, 7 times for them to get blood. And I said, no more.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you really have to be a strong advocate for your child. And
Mhm.
um, so they've done a UV where they can see it. And so that worked, but the IV only stayed in for 2 to 3 days, where it's supposed to
Okay.
stay for 14. And so they end up doing what's called a PIC line.
Okay.
And so a PIC line, they do have to put you under,
Okay.
and not to get into a lot of detail, but it does go right
No,
through.
I'm very curious. I'm like, what is it? Yeah. So
Yeah,
you
so
can
it does
explain.
go. Now, nurses would be able to explain it far more better than I can, but to my understanding, it does go right through your artery, I believe.
Wow. So
I
where
do.
does it go start? It,
I
like,
think.
does it go through? Oh, it goes right through
Yeah,
here.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
over here. And so with the PICC line, there's no way it can come out, and they can draw blood from it.
Okay.
But they don't like doing it because they do have to sedate them.
Right,
And that's the
exactly.
other thing that was very emotional is, no one's all happy, and and then you bring him in the room, and now he knows what's going on, right? Because he's older,
Yeah. Yes.
and he just knows. And when they sedate him, like that's when you lose it. Like he just
No.
goes, yeah,
Yeah.
that, like I had to leave the room just bawling because
Yeah.
it's just, even though you know what is going to happen, it just does not prepare you at all. And I've had to leave.
Totally.
Uh, so to advocate for that, because I don't want him poked 10 times and then the IV to
Mhm.
come out in 2 days and then poked
Yeah.
again. And he can only
Yeah.
stand so much. Like there's times where we've come home from the hospital and he's got bruises here and here and here. And
Oh,
he's had to get an
poor
IV in his head
Bubba.
before. They had to
What?
shave
I didn't
his
even know
head.
you could do that.
I
Wow.
didn't know either. And it's like, oh my
Wow.
gosh, like I came back and it's in his head. And I'm like, whoa. I said, was that necessary? Like, oh my gosh.
Wow.
But they couldn't get it anywhere else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow. The things you learn, and it's like not even like you're not even prepared. It's just like sprung on you and you just have to ride the wave. Like that's wild.
Yeah. And it's,
Wow.
oh my gosh, a whole new world. And then you start thinking, okay, they don't know what causes it. So it's like, was it that one Subway I ate? Because when you're pregnant, you're
Mm,
not supposed to eat processed meat. And then you just start,
right.
internalizing it and feeling like a bad mom. And I think
Oh,
that's normal, right? Because
of course.
you're wondering why him. And I think it's 1 in every 10,000, which is rare, but it's not that rare.
Yeah.
And so, with all this going on, I did go back on my medication, my antidepressants and anxiety.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, I've been on those for years and it's kind of stopped and
Mhm.
tried different methods, but
You knew
you
you
know
needed
yourself.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. I've been on antidepressants before as well, and it got to the point I was like, nothing else I'm doing is working because
Yeah.
I prefer if I can to do it more natural, but I was at that point where I was like, you know what? It's not working. I need to reset. And eventually I could go off of them, which is great, but I am all for it. If you need to do that to function, you have to because like you
Yeah.
can't be in that red state of your mental health all the time or you can't process and like you were dealing with so much stuff like that would just make it so much worse because like when you're feeling those things it just amplifies other things and it just
Oh
yeah so
my.
I
Yeah.
totally do not blame you. I was going to ask you that. I was going to say like what are some things that you did to help you not internalize that guilt and not feel shame around that because like did you have anything that you did from your mindset, I guess is a better way to put that?
So I did try therapy, but
Yeah.
I remember you talking on an episode about this before.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I've seen 5 different people, but I still haven't found the right person
The
for me.
one. I
Yeah.
totally get it. And that's a hard process in itself because, like, going to a therapist and bearing your soul to them is so emotional, so draining. I always sleep so good after because I've had so much emotional release. But when you have to then re explain that story to another one and another one, it gets tough. So I totally understand how that feels because you need the right one. It has to be the
Yes.
right vibe, I believe, for it to be the most beneficial.
Yeah. No, totally. And then, so initially, when he does get that fever, you have to take him into emergency.
Hmm.
And the other thing, like I said about to advocate, is that you really need to emphasize that he needs to get seen right away and how
Hmm.
detrimental it is. And so, and then he has to get certain blood work. And so I assumed that because it's on his file that he has biliary atresia, that it's common sense that you have to test his bilirubin levels.
Right.
And anyway, my husband had taken him one time, and oh my gosh, he was just so docile and sleepy and like very hot, and he was just not himself.
Not
And
himself, yeah.
so we knew it was something. We knew it wasn't just, he has the flu or he's sick. We knew it had to do with his liver. And so they
Mhm.
took the blood tests and came back. Oh, hi.
Here he is. Everybody, Benson is here. Making his appearance.
So sweet. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he'll just sit here while you talk now.
Right? So cute. Um, so yeah, they took his blood work and came back and said, nope, everything looks good. It must be just a viral infection, which means like the flu or something. So
Right.
Evan's like, okay. So we took him home and he's getting worse and worse. So we took him again and I said, you know what? We're taking him right to the Stollery. We're not taking him to this other place.
Mhm.
And so they took him to the Stollery and the doctor saw us and he said, how come no one tested his bilirubin levels? And I said, what do you mean? Well, when they did blood work, they didn't test this to see if he had what's called cholangitis, the infection of the intestine going up, like the small.
Okay. Yes.
And I said, what? And so then I was mad. So then, like, there's
Yeah.
periods of being sad and there's periods of like mama bear.
Anger. Mama bear activated.
Yeah. I could not believe it. I could not believe it. And so now, knowing that, now it's like, okay, lesson learned, make sure they test everything.
Mhm.
Because if we hadn't have gone back, I mean, who knows what would have happened, right?
Yeah.
Scary.
Totally. And like, again, like, I mean, it's awful that that even had to happen, but I love your approach because you're like, okay, learning opportunity, let's go. So that's like so key that you approach things like that. Because I think one, it helps you, like you said, helps you learn how to move forward better and just be more, like you said, you can advocate for your child better because you're like, no, you need to check this too.
Yes. Yeah, so important. And then um, previously talking about the medication, when you first hear, okay, he's got to take, initially it was 3 or 4 in the morning and then 2 at the end of the day. It's like, oh my gosh, like, how am I going to remember this?
Yeah.
Because you're just so overwhelmed with everything. But it does, I remember my mom saying, it's just going to be a routine. It's just going to be a routine that happens every day. And she was so right. And
Yeah.
there was one odd time where we would miss it and oh my gosh, we'd feel so guilty, but you're just so busy in the morning, right?
Yeah,
And
totally.
so yeah, there is an app in case anyone does take medication, and it's called Round.
Okay, cool.
And you can put what medications you're taking and when you want them to take it, and it will alert you.
Nice.
And so that has really helped because on
Mhm.
my Apple Watch it will, beep and I'll say, call my husband. Okay, did you remember? Like we don't get
Yeah.
annoyed with each other because it can get annoying. Like yes, I remember. But you got to be if he doesn't take it, then
Diligence.
yes,
Exactly. Yeah. No, that's perfect. That's amazing. That's a really good tip. Is this app, even if it's like, I don't know, if you just take vitamins and stuff, can you
birth
put that kind of
control,
thing?
vitamins,
Oh,
whatever.
sweet.
Yeah,
Everything. Cool. So this
yeah,
can benefit everyone.
totally.
Round. I like that. The Round
Round,
app.
yeah,
Okay,
and it's free,
cool.
even better.
That is even better. We like that. That's a
Yeah,
great
I'm
tip.
not endorsed, I promise, but maybe I will be now.
Yeah, exactly. That's amazing. That's a great tip. Like, because especially in our world today, I just feel like we're so go, 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 go. Everybody's so busy. Totally, it could slip your mind, or it. And of course, yes, it is your routine, but life is life. We all have those days, those off days. So that's a
Yeah,
great tip.
yeah, like even for me taking iron pills.
Yeah.
Right? You get so busy, and then like I take them at night, and
Hmm.
there's some nights where I'm just drained, and then I'm
Yeah.
laying in bed and it's going beep beep. I'm like, oh man, so I get up and get my glass of water. But like honestly, like I said, I'm so forgetful in my memory, right?
Yeah.
So it truly
It's
does help.
helpful. Oh, for sure. And it like, even if I was in bed and I was like, just like, oh, I don't want to get up, but if the beeping kept happening, I'd be like, okay, just do it, just get up.
Right? It's like when you have to remove your makeup and you're like, oh
Yes.
no, too
I-
lazy,
they should have an app for that.
right? Hey, you can put it
Just
on that
got a
now.
new genius idea. There we go.
Yeah,
Take your
totally.
makeup off.
Yeah. So his medication is they have to compound it. And
Okay.
so to my knowledge, it's what that means is kind of like the chemist, the compounder has to mix all these things.
Okay.
And so now his medication, and it's different every city you live in depending on how they make it, but one of his medications only lasts 2 weeks. And you get so busy that you forget. And if he doesn't take
Mhm.
it, then he's right in the hospital. Like even one dose. And
Yeah.
so, make sure you talk with the pharmacist and come up with a plan.
Mm.
And, I told them, please put in your system somewhere that it has to be filled every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because the pharmacy here, they don't compound on the weekends. So that's tough because
Mhm.
if we forget and all of a sudden it's Saturday, what do
You
we
can't
do,
get
right?
it. Yeah.
And there was some things that you had to advocate for that too that got pretty messy.
To
Um,
get your prescription filled in that
yes,
really?
there was a lot of miscommunication.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
yeah, a lot of miscommunication where one person said, "No, we don't do that 2 week thing," and I said, "Well, I was talking to somebody," and anyway, it was that's the other thing that was very upsetting because it's not about you and I arguing; it's about this little boy who needs it to
Exactly.
live, and
Exactly.
he threatened not to make it, and like,
What?
oh yeah,
Oh my, okay, that's not cool. That's to me, that sounds super unethical. I don't like that.
right,
Ooh.
yes, and so that's been a hard road,
Yeah.
extremely hard road. And
Mm.
again, you do have to stand up for your son, for your child,
Mhm.
and not to be um, rude or anything, but to put the point across if that makes sense.
Right. Be firm or like stand
Yeah,
your ground.
like not to
Yeah.
be a bitch or anything, but to really, this is important and it needs to
Mhm.
happen.
Mhm. And it's like that mama bear, like, again, don't have a human, but even with my dog, I'm like, if someone tried to hurt him, it would not be a good scene. Like, it would
No,
not be good. So
yeah,
I can only imagine just, you're looking after your baby and you're just wanting to make sure he stays healthy and stays alive and doesn't go in the hospital and all these things. Yeah,
yeah,
to me, if I were in that industry, I would want to work with people like that. Like you would think that's why they're. I have friends who are, and they're beautiful at their job, and I know
mhm,
they would be accommodating to something like that for sure.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
that was very hard.
Yeah.
But now we're used to it, and the older he gets, the more he needs. And at first, it was a nightmare giving it to him because he wasn't used
Hmm.
to it. And
Yeah.
now we say, okay, time for your medicine, and his mouth just goes, like he just,
He's
or
ready.
sometimes he'll ask for it, and it's like, what? Like medicine
Does it
now?
taste good?
No. Like I don't know. Like so now, like before, the struggle was real. Like it was a pain to get him to take it, and he would spit it out. And it's like, oh my gosh, he can't be.
Yeah.
But now he just opens his mouth like nothing. Just takes
Just
it
like a
like
little
nothing.
bird. He's like, okay.
Right? Yeah, mouth wide open. Yeah. No.
That's
That
great.
that
That's
was
great.
hard.
That it's nice the progression happened. I guess that would be a good tip is like don't give up. It will
Yes.
get better.
Yes. And don't forget because that's why I mentioned that app because man, people are so busy
Yeah,
nowadays, right?
that's right. Yeah, this world is nuts at times and there's always so much stimulation with our phones and internet, TV, all these things. So, we definitely need those reminders.
And then, I often think of the future and I think, okay, we've got a good grasp on remembering, but then I worry as he gets older, in Alberta it's 18 when they can drink and whatever. I'm
Mhm.
worried about is he going to remember? And I'm probably going to be that mom that calls, right? Did you take your medicine? Yes, mom. Heck yeah.
Just
Oh,
checking.
right? Yeah.
I have a
I'm going to be
question.
that mom.
With this disease, is it like I don't want to be I'm not trying to be morbid in any way, but is
No.
there like an age that like or do they just live their life as normal? They just need to remember to take their medicine or is there like an age that they live until? I don't want that to sound morbid in any way, but
No,
I'm just curious.
no, that's a great question. So, um, luckily, if they find out you have biliary atresia and you're young enough, I believe, um, don't quote me, but at least if they're 10 weeks or younger and they have the
Mm-hmm.
Kasai done, then that's hopeful
Okay.
because that's like the band-aid, right? That will
Right.
prolong getting a liver transplant. And because he was 6 weeks, it was almost like a blessing in disguise. Because had
Mm-hmm.
he not had that cyst, I mean, who knows how long we would have known.
That's right.
Because sorry, I'm just thinking of stuff now. He was jaundice, but we thought,
Okay.
okay, well, some babies are jaundice,
That's right.
but that's a
Yeah.
sign. And then his stool was pale.
Okay.
That's another sign. I thought, oh, it's probably just my breast milk because I don't know, but that's another
Yeah.
sign. And so, looking back, it's like, man, you don't realize the signs. And so, even for
Mm-hmm.
someone at home thinking, man, like they're very jaundiced, their stool is pale, like you just never know because who would have
That's
thought?
right. Yeah,
So,
exactly.
because he got it so young, the more cases of cholangitis he gets, that's a sign his liver's not doing well. But
Okay.
knock on wood, it used to be 3 times a year, and now it's kind of gone to two, which is
Okay.
crazy.
Yeah.
So they say usually between 2 to 14 is kind of when they do have that liver transplant. And
Okay.
so then they can, like, it's like they're a normal, atypical person. They can play sports,
Wow.
anything. And if you looked at
Wow.
him, you would never know,
Mm-hmm.
never know. And he's so resilient. Like, he's going to be our tough kid that,
Oh,
like,
I love that.
don't tease him or push him around because,
He's a
yeah,
tough one.
he's going to be the one I'm getting phone calls from school. Like, yeah, it makes him tough, I tell you.
For sure. From a very young age, resilient and
Yes.
tough.
Yeah.
Wow. Wow.
Because him and his brother, wrestle as boys do.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually Nolan that's taken over. It's like, come on, like he's 3 and you're 7. Get up, come on.
Yeah. Oh
Uh,
my gosh, that's so funny. I don't know if you mentioned this. Did he have his transplant or is that something that
no, so that's the other thing. He's not even on the list,
okay.
and he won't be on the list unless it's a dire need, which is
Oh,
kind of
that's how
worrisome.
that works.
But
Okay.
what I learned is that the liver is almost a good thing because more so than not, you only need a piece of it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if someone were to give their liver, they don't have to give the whole thing. Most of
Oh,
the time, they can just take a piece of it. So
cool. I
that's,
didn't know that.
yeah, so many things you learn, right?
Right? Yeah, I learned a lot. I'm like, I did not know that.
Yeah. So that's a good thing.
Hmm.
And I think he
Definitely.
has a rare blood type. I don't remember what it is. Is it O positive or O negative?
I
But
something like that, yeah.
yeah. So I guess, I tend not to think about it because
Mhm.
when that does happen, it's a minimum of 3 months that we're going to
Okay.
be in Edmonton. And that's going to be a long road. But
Yeah,
I just try to
definitely.
stay positive and like he's scootering, he's falling scrape, like he's just
I like that he
okay.
just, minus having to take his medicine, he lives no life as a normal kid. I think that's great.
Yeah. Yeah, you would never know. He just has, the scar that goes right across his belly, but
Yeah, but
yeah.
that's it. Oh, that's so good. That's so nice to hear that after everything you've been through already, he's just living life, loving it, like, and that's
Oh,
what's most important.
dancing, yeah. Loves dancing and singing, and his favorite word is butt crack. And, there's still some things we have to teach him, but
That's so funny. Oh my God. But like that, he's just living life, like loving life. Like I think that's amazing. So it's just like, any of us, I think, should relate to that. Like I've always said, you can learn a lot from kids and animals, but especially your child. Like no matter what card you're dealt, it's what you make of it. And he's clearly making the most of it. He's like, all right, let's do this. I think
you know
that's
what?
great.
That is such a good point. That is such a good point.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
And then,
awesome.
so anyway, this is about a couple months ago. My husband was just, I don't know if he was sometimes we look at our kids, like maybe you look at your dog, like you just stare at them, oh, they're just so sweet, especially when they're sleeping, right? Because they're just
Yeah.
so calm and quiet. But anyway, he was looking at him, and well, he has a patch of hair gone. And we were watching it, and it was getting bigger and bigger, like a bald spot. So
Right.
anyway, we took him to the doctor, and well, he has alopecia.
Really?
Yes, and
Is
so
that like a side effect or it's just on its own?
I guess it has nothing to do with his liver. And I'm like, of
Wow.
course. But he doesn't care. He's like, yeah, I got a little bald spot here. Like but
He rocks it.
he rocks it. He's got like a little mohawk haircut, and yeah.
I love that.
But I think if he was older, school age, like kids can be mean,
Yeah.
then it might affect them. And that's the whole other side of things, right? I mean, luckily
Yeah.
Nolan, it's internal and not external, but for them to be an advocate for themselves too, right?
Yeah. Oh my God, yeah, that's such a great point. I love that. Like, what kind of stuff do you tell him? Like, when does he ask questions about any of his disease or?
No, like I think luckily it's inside, so it's not like
Mm-hmm.
I don't am I explaining that right? Like
Yeah.
it's not a disease where you can physically,
Yeah.
or that he can be made fun of, I guess, except
Yeah.
maybe when he gets older, the scar, but, we can say, oh, you were in a battle, just make something fun up.
Oh, yes, and everybody gets scars from stuff, so that's not a big deal.
Yes.
Does he realize that I don't want to say he's different or whatever, but does he realize that at this age yet, or does he just take his medicine and go on about his day?
Yeah. I don't think he
Yeah.
knows. I think even Jet doesn't totally understand it because when he gets sick, he'll cry and say, I don't want him to get needles. But now he's scared of needles and he's scared of the doctor. And it's unfortunate
Mm,
because, with COVID and having to go to the, anyway, it's unfortunate, but they do feel it. And I remember my mom sending me um, little stories about how to help siblings and stuff. And that's so important
yeah.
because you're
Yeah.
so focused on the
Totally.
child who's sick that it's like, oh
Hmm.
my gosh, this poor child is needing some love too, right? And that connection.
Hmm. Definitely. Oh, that's so good that you had those stories, like to inspire and to maybe give you different ideas. Like, do you find the way that you split your time, like, do you guys do a lot of stuff all together or do you do things separately? Like, how do you make sure he feels the love too?
So I know when he does go to the hospital, now we've kind of gotten comfortable with it where only one of us will try to go. And
Right.
so we'll do, dates where we build Lego, or he loves to go to the scooter,
Nice.
go to the skate park, and just that even one-on-one.
Yeah, totally. And like that's it, right? Just the one-on-one time is that's it.
Yep.
I can even remember as a kid just like the littlest things I'd remember, like going to the post office with your parents or your mom or your dad or whatever, like the silliest little things, but you remember that stuff.
Yeah. And pre-COVID, the Stollery Hospital has this huge playroom, and so siblings were allowed to go in. And so that was nice for
Nice.
Jet because then he could see his
Yeah.
brother, but it hasn't opened yet, so hopefully things will change because
Hopefully
that's kind of a
soon.
must
Yeah.
too, right?
Oh,
Especially
yeah,
ones
for
that have
sure.
no choice. They've got to bring their other kids.
Exactly. Yep. Definitely need that to open back up. I feel like it's time now. I'm like, okay, open
Yes.
that up again.
Yeah.
We need it now.
But the other thing I want to mention was my where I work, they are unbelievably supportive. And
Oh, that's so
I know
good.
some people, depending on their personality, like I'm definitely an extrovert, where I don't mind sharing and telling my story. And so,
Hmm.
a lot of people know. And if I'm away, they'll text me, is Nolan okay? Or if we're
Mhm.
gone, like they'll send, care pack. Like they're just
That's
unbelievably
so
supportive.
nice. Oh my
Unbelievable.
God. I think that's so important because, like, your work family, you're with them a lot of your time. And just to have that support, not only from your friends and family outside, but that work family. I love that. That's so nice. And you must just feel so supported and safe and like just loved. I think that's great.
Yeah, I think it really puts things into perspective. Like, you know, even something as simple as a text message or a card. And then you think, okay, if someone else is going through something, I can be there for them by asking how are they? And you don't realize how
Yeah.
important that is to you when you receive it, if that makes sense.
Yes. Totally makes sense. Like, I totally get that. Like, especially, you're going through stuff and it's just thoughtful, just have someone reach out. Just a couple words. That's all it takes. Doesn't have to be a whole big thing, but
Yeah.
it still feels nice. That's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
Just
Oh,
looking
so
at my,
sweet.
I'm a note taker. I'm old school. I got the note in here.
I also have a piece of paper here with notes. I
Oh,
like to write it as well.
right. Maybe
It's
that's the
my
she
phone
talk.
notes are for some things. What's that?
Maybe that's the she talk, and maybe it's just how we
I
grew
feel
up.
it could be. It feels good to write stuff. I even like will journal sometimes, just my feelings, and I have to write it. It's not the same if I type. My phone notes is for like errands, like, okay, I have to go do this, this, this. But the paper, it's different.
Yeah,
Totally. Did you
it's
have any final words of wisdom for us? Or I don't want to miss anything 'cause you have lots of great stuff.
yeah. I think the overall thing is that you're gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You're gonna have ups and downs where it feels like a nightmare, and you feel like you're stuck, and you just don't know what to do with yourself, and all you can do is cry. But it will get better, and you're gonna get out of that tough part. And
Yeah.
the other thing is definitely to advocate, even if you are a quiet person and you don't like to speak up or you think you're bothering people, you need to speak up for your child.
Hmm.
And you got to stand up for them because you're their voice.
That's right.
And you just got to do it, no matter if you seem like you're being overstepping, because I find personally doctors can be very intimidating. It's almost like going to the
Hmm.
principal's office, right? And so
Yeah.
like there was a few times where like I had to voice my opinion and like the nerves and I'm shaking, but if you don't, I mean you're doing it for your child, right? And so
That's it.
like I said, even if you're an introvert and you don't like to speak out, like I like to speak out, so I don't mind doing it at all. But that's so important, so important. And I think it probably would come naturally in a way, like a mother instinct, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, because like it's just like something else takes over because it's for your baby. Yeah, I think that would
Exactly.
for sure. No, that's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. I feel like I learned so much and got to like
Yeah.
see into something that I've never experienced. And, I think this is just so important to share these stories. And I know there's going to be someone out there listening who can resonate with this. And also, too, we'll plug in your social media if you'd like. If anyone has resonated with what Dia has had to say today, you can connect with her if you'd like. You can give us how they can reach you.
Yeah. Isn't that awful? I have to look it up. This is what happens when you turn 35. Oh my gosh. It's like the kindergarten kids are teaching me now. I feel
Oh
like
my
my mom,
God. The kids with the technology though, they're on another level.
right? Um, so it's Mrs. D. Kathleen.
Perfect. And
Pretty
I'll
original.
have all of it linked as well. So if you're watching this on YouTube, it'll be in the description box. If you're listening podcast, it'll be like I know you probably see my Instagram too. She'll be tagged everywhere. There won't be any trouble finding her. And she'll be tagged in all my Instagram stories as well. So yeah, if you want to chat with her, she's right there and I open to share. Obviously, she'll open to sharing and had great words of wisdom and tips today. Just because like this is not something you planned for.
Oh my God.
So
It was,
to
like I said, the cyst, that's all we thought it was, and then bam, hits you right in the face.
yeah. and
Yeah.
like there's no preparation, nothing. So
Oh
to
my
hear
goodness.
these stories and at least have like, a few tips in mind, then if something does happen, you're like not completely flailing in the wind. You're like, okay, we got this. We can problem solve. Here's like I keep thinking about that the Round app, like that alone for anybody listening. So good, but I just love everything you shared with everyone today. So I just want to really thank you because I know too it's very close to your heart and it's a vulnerable story. So I appreciate you being open with us today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I was very
Of
excited.
course. Yay, of course. No, we love having you. Oh, it's been so, so good. So that's our tea time for today, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video. It'll help build our community even more. If you're listening via podcast, give us a rating. And yeah, you'll be able to connect with Dee over on Instagram if you resonated with her today. So thank you so much again, and we will see you next time. Bye.